Hey there, welcome back to Visual Communications, Multimedia 110 at Los Angeles Mission College. I'm Curtis Stage. We're going to continue our conversation about visual communication theories. And if you'll remember, last class, lecture number 3, we talked about semiotics. We're going to move forward now, and we're going to be talking about cognitive theories in perception. Remember, these are primarily concerned with visual perceptions and the meaning that humans associate with them. So they're a little bit different than the sensory theories. So we already talked about semiotics. Now we're going to finish up with cognitive theory. This is a fun one, just like semiotics. This gets us thinking about this stuff. I like to say this is more mental. Perception's not just the result of visual stimulation, not just the result of what we see, but also involves our own mental processes. This involves things that we bring to the table. Right? We bring certain memories to any situation, and that's going to affect the way we see things. So that's what we're talking about here with cognitive. Cognitive is mental. Cognitive is our perception and how we come to that table with those perceptions. How do we come to the table with those ideas already intact? Sometimes they're unconscious. Sometimes we're not thinking about them. But we've just lived a life. We have a lot of experiences, and we come to the table with those experiences, and that affects our vision. It affects how we visually communicate with each other as well. So that's what we want to talk about. So perception is not just the result of visual stimuli, like I was just saying, but also involves a series of mental processes in which we compare what we see to our catalog of familiar memories. Right? We have memories that we've built up over time. We're comparing those things and perceptions and use those to interpret and analyze. So we're using what we know kind of in our storage banks, and we are now able to interpret and analyze what we know, this visual things that we're seeing with what we know. So this is kind of where we're going with this. Carolyn Bloomer was a PhD, and she was an artist. She was studying art and teaching art, and she came up with some of the principles. She wrote a book, Principles of Visual Perception, and she came up with this cognitive idea of visual perception. Her main idea was that culture and previous experience affects visual perception. And those are kind of what we want to look at. So according to the cognitive approach, a viewer does not simply witness an object, thinking about things like Gestalt, right? But actively arrives at a conclusion about the perception through mental operations. So things, again, you're coming to the table with these mental things already in your mind. You may not think about them, they may be unconscious, but you're coming to the table with those, and that's what we're talking about here with cognitive theory. So what can those mental operations be? What can we talk about here? So Bloomer came up with several of these activities that affect visual perception. That image there that's on the right, I'll go back to it. This is the famous image on Mars. Many people think that some alien culture created this image on Mars, and now we're seeing it millions of years later, and it's basically we obviously see a face there, right, in the rocks. And of course, if you look at it closer, you still may see the structure of what we could think of as a face, but really it's just a rock, right? Nobody built this thing. It's a natural rock formation, but we associate, that's something that people do. We bring our memories, our ideas to something, and we associate our perceptions with an object sometimes. And so this is a great example of this, how we've kind of projected our belief system onto something that doesn't even have that. We'll talk more about that in a second. So let's talk about memory as the first one. This is the most important one. This is the one we're coming to the table with most. You live a life, you've maybe lived 10 years, 50 years, whatever that is, and you have memories built up. And those memories of places, of people, of things, they influence the way you look at objects. If you go on a vacation somewhere, say you go to Italy, you're always going to compare it to things you've never seen Italy before. but you're going to compare the plants and the architecture and the way the light looks in the sky, the ocean, maybe you're down by the beach. You're going to compare those to something you're familiar with in your memory bank. You may even say, hey, this ocean doesn't look like, the water is much bluer here than in California. You may say something like that. But really, your brain is doing a visual comparison when you go somewhere. And let's say you go to Disneyland in Anaheim and then you go to Disneyland in Tokyo. You're going to visually compare those places. You may not even think about it. Sometimes you will think about it, but you might not think about it. So memory is helping us create our perceptions, and you're taking all the things that you've ever seen in your life. You may see something for a split second, not even register it, not even think about it, and it's going to help you. Think about when you're driving a car. Right? We drive down the road, we have a memory of what a road looks like, and there's a lot of things going by us really quickly. We even have a memory of what that looks like. If we didn't, it would be really scary to drive 80 miles an hour down the freeway if you don't have a memory of what that blurriness looks like on the side of your vision, right? We're not looking at every single thing while we're on the freeway. We're not checking out the details of houses as they're passing by and buildings. We know those exist because we've seen a building, we've seen a house, we've seen trees going by, and then we've also seen them blurry on a freeway. So we're not really paying much attention to them. So we have a memory of them. We just register it. We're on a freeway, we're going fast, things are going by us quickly, so we're not thrown off too much. So we can concentrate. And we also know what a road looks like. We expect a road to look a certain way because we've been on the road many, many times. We've been on a freeway many, many times. But I've driven in other countries where their freeways look different. You may even drive on the different side of the road. And that throws you way off because you have no memory of driving on the other side of the road. Does that make sense? You go to England, you drive on the other side of the road, it throws you off as a driver. You don't have a memory of that. It doesn't look the same. It looks different. So memories play a big role. This is in this image here, we have a still from a great movie called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind by Michel Gondry. Jim Carrey's in it, Kate Winslet. It's a great movie. And it's all about erasing memories. Kate Winslet, she decides she's going to break up with her boyfriend, Jim Carrey, and erase her memories of him. It's in the future, sci-fi. He finds out about it and he says, well, I want to do this too. I want to erase my memories of her. Then he realizes midway while he's going through the procedure that he's realizing as he's going through this procedure, he's kind of in this dream state. He's realizing, well, wait a minute, I kind of love her. Maybe I don't want them to erase the memories, but he's in this dream state. So what he does throughout the movie, I don't want to give too much away, but he tries to find places to hide her in his memories. But they weren't necessarily memories that he had with her. They were memories that he had in his life. They were visual memories, and he would go to these places and try to hide so that they couldn't erase her. The computer couldn't erase her in the regular memories they had. It's really cool. It's really interesting. If you get a chance, see this movie, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The next one we want to talk about is projection, right? Our mental state is projected onto an inanimate object, something like clouds. We see this all the time. Oh, look up in those clouds. Or I have a shower curtain in my bathroom that's kind of, it has some paisley patterning. And sometimes I'll, be brushing my teeth and looking in the mirror and it looks like there's a face back in there. I'll be like, oh, it looks, and I'm not on any drugs or anything. It just looks like there's faces in there. And then I look away quickly. But anyways, we do that as humans. We project an idea, a mental map of something that is familiar onto things that shouldn't have those things, inanimate objects, like the Mars rock, right? We're projecting a face on that Mars rock. Here's those clouds, right? We project, what is it, like a bear cub or a tiger cub or something in that one. And then the one on the right, it's a little rougher there, but it looks like it looks like a head and some arms, and it looks like somebody's reading something. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. So that's projection. Pretty easy to figure that one out. The next one is expectation. This talks about how a visual should appear. Kind of similar to when we were talking about driving down the freeway. You expect, right? You expect the road to keep going straight. You don't expect an abrupt turn. You don't expect an abrupt this way. Like you're driving straight and you expect it to continue to be straight. If you're going to make a turn, it's going to be a very slow turn, hopefully. So we're expecting something a certain way, and visually we expect that, and then it maps onto our mind. This is going to be a long turn, right? Movies and TV, they do this all the time. They'll create false expectations for us. We'll be seeing one thing and then we'll think something else. And so this is a great trick that filmmakers do. And sometimes you just need to do it as a special effect. So in this example from modern times with Charlie Chaplin, they didn't have the technology we have today. They had to kind of wing it. So I'll have some links in our modules to this scene right here. And it's pretty interesting to see it. He's skating around on roller skates, and it looks like he's going to fall off this ledge in this shop, and he's going to tumble down to his death, of course, few levels down. So he's getting really close to that edge in the video. You'll have to watch it, but just trust me here. It looks real. He looks like there's an edge there, but in actuality, and the viewers don't know this, and it's never revealed in the film. It's just a trick that filmmakers do. So we expect that he could fall off this. We expect that this is very dangerous. We're expecting that. But this is actually how they created it. It's just matted in there. It's this small miniature. You can see the camera down towards the bottom, or the model of it, and you can see that they had painted that little part in there. And just a trick of perception will make us think that that little piece is in there. So expectation, we're expecting him to fall off this rail. He's not really going to fall off the rail. Sometimes films will do this where you expect something to occur and it doesn't occur, and that's another thing too. So the next one is selectivity. Most of our visual perception is unconscious, automatic, right? We have large numbers of images entering and leaving our mind, and we don't have time to process these things. We actually can only focus on significant details within a scene. So you'll see, this is from Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. It was very chaotic in downtown Los Angeles. It was set in the future, and the downtown scene was very chaotic. There was a lot going on, and so the filmmakers really had to try to figure out a way to use constructivism in a way, right? We've talked about constructivism. Use constructivism to there's a lot of chaos going on, and they needed to selectively get your eye to a certain spot because of all this visual chaos. It was raining, there's lights, there's just all kinds of things happening here, and they wanted to get your eye to the right spot in the film. So it's kind of constructivism. It's also called selectivity, right? This is how our brain processes this. We select objects that we think are important, and when there's a lot of chaos going on, we'll be attracted to objects that seem like that they need to be focused on, and we will only focus on those that are detailed, things that are details that are important or that we think are important. So we're making a selection on something. Of course, it's usually people. The next one is habitual, right? We tend to ignore visual stimuli that are a part of a person's everyday habitual activities. Here's a photograph by art photographer Andres Gursky, and he's known for taking images of large, expansive places, and things, look really strange from that perspective. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like an overload of stuff. This is like a 99-cent store, right? Overload of stuff, and he's known for this. These are giant photos. When you see them in museums or galleries, they're huge, and everything just looks overwhelming. So we have a habit of as humans of ignoring things, right? Again, it kind of goes back to our memory of building up a memory of something. Oh yeah, this is a grocery aisle, it looks like this. But it even gets further. We have this habit that we build up, that we can remember things and we can put them out of our mind, and we just kind of habitually go through spaces. And it kind of protects us from overload here. It gets us from having too much image overload. It's everyday activities that we do. Again, I could use driving as an example too, but I like the grocery store idea. Grocery stores, you go to the same one. It's habitual. You don't think about it too much. You know where things are located, and you can your brain takes a break from the visual overload. You go into Costco, and it is crazy. There's a lot going on in Costco, right? You can be overwhelmed. But if you've been there a couple times, you kind of don't get as overwhelmed because you're used to the visual overload. If you ever go to Tokyo or busy city, New York City, you go to Manhattan, you go to Times Square, it's a visual overload in Times Square. But if you go there all the time, it becomes a habit, and it doesn't seem so chaotic anymore when you go there often. Probably Los Angeles feels that way too in some parts of it too, where there's a lot going on. You are not overwhelmed. But I know when I go to a new city and I've never been there before, I'm visually overwhelmed. You get home, you get to the hotel or wherever you're staying with friends or family, and you're tired at the end of the day. Or even if you go to, let's say, a sporting event, let's say you go to Dodger Stadium, so many people there, right? You expect them to be in certain places, sit in seats and whatever, but there's so many people, and you might recognize a couple people, but our brain is trained to say, okay, let's turn off all of these 50,000 people, and right, it just becomes a habit. You go there a lot, you're not going to be overstimulated, and you can focus on the things that are important. So that's kind of, some possible analogies there. So here's a graphic example of that. Right? We could do that in design where we can kind of take some text and simplify it down where the other stuff is kind of an overload and we are now simplifying it. So we're seeing only what's important, and we can pick those pieces out really easily because of that color change, the red against the white. Right? Otherwise, it's all a jumbled mess. If everything was white, it would be really chaotic and difficult for us to grasp. The next one is salience. This is visual stimulus that's going to be noticed more if it has meaning for us. So if, religious symbols are this way. If they have meaning for us, we're going to connect with them more, we're going to remember them more, we're going to notice them more. And this is very true. We deal with this every day. You're driving down, again, I'll use the road as an example. I guess maybe I'm on the road all the time. Use the road as an example. Street signs, traffic signs, you see them all the time. You're going to connect with them a lot more. They have meaning to you in the sense that you remember them and they have important information. Religious symbols, you see crosses all the time. It's a quick visual stimulation. Cross on the top of a church, right? Star of David. You know what those mean, and they're going to have meaning for you, and you're going to interpret them differently if they have meaning for you. People's faces, if that is something that, someone that you're close to. Salience, things that have meaning to you are going to affect your visual communication, right? They're going to affect the way you see things, and if you're an artist, designer, filmmaker, photographer, they're going to affect the way you make things, right? So this class is about really kind of talking about both, the maker and the viewer, right? We're kind of wearing both hats in this class. We're not making a lot of stuff in this class. We're more viewing a lot of things and kind of almost like we're on scavenger hunts to find these things so we can understand them. But certainly I've got a lot of designers in the class and artists and photographers, filmmakers, and they want to be able to apply these things to these ideas to the things they make. Some of you are visual communications or communications majors, and you want to apply these ideas to communication in general. And so we're wearing kind of both hats, but certainly religious symbols would be salience. Dissonance is a fun one, right? Kind of going back to that overload thing again and overstimulation. Dissonance has this idea. The mind tends to concentrate on one activity at a time. We can usually only focus on one thing at one time. Too many distracting stimuli, it's hard to concentrate, and messages can become difficult. This is an M.C. Escher, famous artist, illustrator, and I love his work. This is really a great example of, at first you'll see the angels popping out, but then you look closer and you'll see the kind of winged devil creature. It's not apparent right away, or maybe you go the other way. Maybe you're seeing the winged devil creature before you're seeing the angel. It just depends on the way you look at it. So this is a whole bunch of things happening at once, and you're focusing on one particular thing where other things may fall away. or you may get distracted by one thing and not see the other. Here's another Escher example just to kind of give you an idea there. You may see one thing really prominently and you may not see the others as prominently right at first. And everybody's going to look at images a little differently, right? Everybody's going to see these things slightly different. And the last one is culture, right? So culture has this way that connects us visually to things. We will understand visual imagery, visual communication through our cultural codes. That's what I think is the key here. And so this is Banksy, the famous street artist, who definitely all of his work is communicating through cultural codes. So that's been lecture number 4 on cognitive theory, and I hope this kind of makes sense. And we're going to move forward now. Lecture number 5 is going to kind of switch gears a little bit. We're going to take all these things we've learned in the first 4 lectures, and now we're going to start thinking about applying them in different ways to design and art, film, and photography. So we'll talk to you guys next time.